Welcome to another episode of Hewnlife. We live in a remarkable time where the use of technology among children has exploded. There's so many pressures faced by children in this generation as a result of overexposure to technology, a lapse in moral values, and the societal normalization of behavior and practices that would have been considered abominable in the olden days. And by the olden days, I'm literally talking about the last 5 to 10 years. As responsible parents with a conscience, we must ensure that we instill the correct moral and cultural values in our children. Otherwise, we leave them to the value of technology, the internet, and their peers. How do we ensure that we're raising children who are positive-minded, morally astute, and spiritually guided, and who would grow up to be positive influences and leaders in their generation? My guest today is an education professional. He's currently head of Year 10 and a pastoral lead in an inner London secondary school. Having worked in various pupil referral units across London, he has a mandate and a mission to ensure that as many children as possible are kept away from pupil referral units. My guest today is Mr. Patrick Egbuchiem. Welcome, Patrick, to Hewnlife.
Hello, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. Thanks for gracing us with your presence.
Thanks for actually inviting me to be here. I feel honoured.
So, Patrick, you currently are head of Year 10 in an inner city secondary school. Yep. So you work with 15, 16-year-olds who are... Yeah. So those are teenagers currently in the throes of hormonal changes and self-discovery.
Yes.
There's no doubt that they're facing a lot of pressure from society at the moment.
Yeah.
What do you think are the most significant pressures that these children are facing, and how are they navigating these challenges and navigating their life?
Oof, well, you know something? It hasn't changed over the years. What's changed is the environment and the setting, but within us, it's the same things. The search for discovery, the search for identity, and where you see yourself in the world. Now we're dealing with a heck of a lot of technology.
Yes.
And this technology has opened their eyes to things that even 15 years ago we wouldn't have been able to see so easily. So their eyes are wide open.
Yes.
They see it. Because they see it in the palm of their hand, on their phones, on their laptops, it's accessible to them, but they don't realize the steps that you have to go through to attain those things. So often their lives are filled with a tinge of disappointment because they always feel like what they see is just that step too far away. It's an interesting time. I mean, I call it the McDonald's generation.
Why?
Because you want to eat something. You're used to getting it really quickly. Absolutely. But really, deep down, the key to sustaining any sort of healthy lifestyle is to have healthy meals, and healthy meals often take time to cook. Yes. And they last longer in terms of fueling your body. Yes. But nobody's got the patience for that anymore because everything that we get now is quick, quick, quick. Yes. So it's all it's McDonald's. It's a McDonald's lifestyle. Yes. If we can't get it now, then we don't want it. Yes. Not so just food. Everything is so fast-paced. Everything's fast-paced. They want it now, and they're seeing too much more than they can actually emotionally handle. Yeah, they're not ready. They're not ready to, well, let me not sell them short, because there are people who are 15, 16 who are doing amazing things. Yeah. They've got great ideas and have looked at people who have gone before them and learned from their mistakes. Yes. But those people normally have mentors. Yes. They normally have some sort of unit or drive, something that's got them. Yes. The average 15, 16-year-old is just following. They don't actually know where they're going. Yes. They can see the light and they're just walking that way. Yes. And what they're following is what they see. Yeah. On social media or on the internet. Yeah, or what they hear from their friends, because, you know, we were there once. You tell stories that aren't true. And you immediately think, I need to match up to this. It's, if we go into social media, Instagram, instant gratification, I'm pushing it there, but that's what it is. Yes. People put their lives out there. Nobody knows that John Smith, who is a multi-millionaire, they don't know what he's doing behind the scenes. He's working 28-hour days. But then when he puts that picture there, you see the finished product. And you want that. And you want that. And then you wonder how you get there. Then when you try and fail, because nobody's taught you how to do it, you give up. And then that's where depression sets in.
Yes.
That's where you start to hide. That's where you no longer want to talk to people.
Yes.
And then that's when we start to lose some of these kids because they think, okay, I need to do something quick in order to meet this image or this target. And that's where we fall into deviance.
Yes, yes. So I'm just going to take one aspect of their exposure to technology, cyberbullying. Do you think that this is a problem for the youth in this generation? To what extent do you think that bullying is an issue? Bullying on the internet and bullying amongst their peers? And what would you say to a teenager that has approached you for advice or that's been victimized or been bullied on social media or by their peers? What would you say to them?
Bullying online is not just something that affects the youth, adults too.
Yes.
It's a big, big thing. There was the Anti-Bullying Association, it's Anti-Bullying Month or Week, sorry, in November. And they've put out an image of Ed Sheeran.
Okay.
He quit Twitter because every other post he was being insulted about the way he looked, being insulted about this, that, and the other. He was being bullied.
Absolutely.
Ed Sheeran is probably one of the biggest artists in the world.
Of our time, yes.
But he was being bullied to the point where he quit Twitter. Now, with these kids, one of the things that we have a problem with is lack of accountability. Everybody has a smartphone now with a camera. If I wanted to speak to someone in Japan at 12 years old, I could just do a FaceTime call. I could send a message. I can put a video on YouTube from my phone.
Yeah.
Because of this want for attention and validation.
Yes. There's a need for validation.
Yes. What's happening is it's an open forum. It's where a lot of people that we call keyboard warriors live. People who live to insult you online. Yeah. Destroy anything you do creatively. You can't please everybody.
Absolutely.
But for some reason, a lot of people are still trying to do that online. So what happens with these kids especially is somebody puts up a picture of themselves in a new shirt, or they think they've got muscles, so they pose with no top on. By the time they get to school the next day, the whole school has seen that picture, it's been photoshopped, that boy is going to get mercilessly mocked. At first it's a joke, but then when the 50th person has said it to you, when that picture's been shared everywhere, it starts to hit your self-esteem, you start to feel rubbish, you start to feel low.
Yes.
And this is without someone even touching you.
Yes.
So it's difficult, and with young girls, unfortunately, they're being pressured to take pictures they don't want to take.
Yes.
And those pictures often find their way around. That's another way, I mean, that goes beyond bullying. It's the sexual offence if you share those pictures.
Yes.
But it's happening a lot.
It is happening, and it has a major impact
on
these kids who are still just coming out of their, you know, pre-10 years, still very youthful in their minds. They're still coming into the world, and they're exposed to this, and their emotions are being battered.
Yeah, but then they feel like they have nobody to talk to. So if somebody approached me, the first thing I'd say to them is, are you actually ready to hear what I'm going to say to you? Are you ready to listen to my advice? I don't know everything, it's a conversation.
Yeah.
But I'll say, first thing you do, you quit social media. Not forever. For a while. For a while. Quit, live in the real world, stop living in this virtual world, and we can say that to adults too. I'm not trying to get the kids here.
Yeah.
But quit social media, take a break, find out who you are again, so that if this ever happens again, you have that inner strength of knowing who you are, so you can laugh at it with them. When you laugh at a joke with somebody where they're trying to make it at you,
it doesn't have that effect.
The effect disappears.
Yes.
The effect disappears. So just take a break from social media, put your phone down, go and live in the real world. Actually go and speak to somebody real. These little things, they make the difference, as simple as it sounds.
Yes, absolutely, I agree with you. So in terms of body image, the girls, even the boys, social media is obviously doing a lot. We see a lot of filters online. People take pictures and they use the phone filters to make it look as perfect as possible. So we have as young as 11-year-olds, 12-year-old girls wearing full-on makeup to school. Do you experience that in your job? Do you see young girls trying to dress up or look a certain way or have their makeup or their hair a certain way, and young boys as well? Do they have issues with their self-esteem? And how can parents help their children to have a healthy and a positive self-image and self-esteem?
One thing is for sure, body image is a major thing. And as I keep saying, it's not just the kids, but if we talk about the kids here, just this week alone, I've probably told about 20 girls that they need to go to student support to remove their makeup. Now, when you speak to their parents say when they left the house, they didn't look like that. When they left the house, their skirt looked more like trousers than it looks like shorts at the moment. They are just following fashion, and I try not to be too hard on them for that, but at the same time, it's the conversation that comes when you speak to them about why, okay, maybe that's a bit too much. You have to be sensitive to what they're going through. You can't forget that once upon a time you were that child, you were that girl, you were that boy. That way, they listen to you. If you're just preaching at them, they're not going to hear what you're saying. And it comes from even higher, where you've got these women who go and inject silicone in their buttocks.
I know.
Now these girls...
That is becoming so rampant now. So it's everywhere. It comes a dime a dozen now.
I've got 15-year-old boys who've been caught taking steroids because they want muscles, because they've seen it on Instagram. Now, it's back to the McDonald's generation. You've got to put work in. If you're making Christmas dinner, anyone who's made Christmas dinner knows that you have to start early in the morning. Yeah. It takes time.
To cook, yes.
It's work. But when you eat it, it's like, But McDonald's, you'll be there for 5 minutes, you get your food, you eat it, you're good. So we're living in this McDonald's generation. They want to cut. They want to have all these shortcuts to get to the final destination. Everything. It's a big thing. Parents, you need to speak to your children. You need to be modelling healthy lifestyles as well. Healthy is not just about food, it's a mentality as well. If your child is skinny and you are skinny as an adult, you say, it's your genetics, this is who we are. Embrace who you are.
I agree.
If you have a larger bone density or structure, okay, you're a little chubby, and this is who you are. If you're healthy on the inside, if you speak, if there's positive affirmations verbally. Yes, yes. By the time these children get to school, secondary school, it might hurt them once, but eventually they say, you know what, I know who I am. You don't worry about me. You stay over there and do your own thing. I agree. Yeah, you have to be communicating with your children all the time. I like what you said about positive affirmation. I got a lot of that from my parents, especially my dad when I was young. And my husband still says it till today. No one can tell you anything about yourself, because I grew up just believing that I had a good physiognomy, good, you know, good look. Yeah. So no one was going to ever tell me any different. And I would always push on that. Parents must always just positively affirm their kids. You know, it's very important. So let's take it back to another type of technology now, and that's gaming. And this obviously relates to the boys. Have you come across boys who, in your opinion, whilst working with them or whilst working, who you think are probably addicted to gaming? And I'm talking about your Xbox, your PlayStation. We all know about Fortnite now. That's literally taking over the world. Would you say that you recognize the symptoms of when a boy is really into gaming, and what impact does it have on their schoolwork or on their other aspects of their lives as well? I've seen it go one of two ways. I'll talk about the negative first. I want to end on a positive. I'll talk about the negative. There's a boy who I know who probably hasn't been to school for quite some time. One of the only things that he truly does is play computer games. He'll lock himself in his room. He's addicted? He's completely addicted. Oh, dear. I've had, even last week, I had boys who, they were arguing on PlayStation. On their headsets, they can communicate with each other. Yeah. Now, back in the day, if FIFA came out, I took my control pad to my friend's house. So 4 of us are sitting in his bedroom playing the game. Yeah. We don't need to do that. There's no time anymore. We all play together online. So these boys are arguing with each other online on a headset. Next thing you know, Monday morning in school, I have to pull these 2 boys into my office. Because they're now physically arguing. They were going to fight because of a headset conversation on PlayStation. Oh, my God. I laughed. But then one of the older kids came to me and said, sir, you can't laugh because this is what they're living with. This is what they know. This is how they do things now. And I had to rein myself in. It's the truth. This is what they understand as life. But they're addicted. They let these games get into their minds,
into their emotions
and bleed into real life.
Wow.
Now, on a positive, there was a report a few years ago about fighter pilots, jets. The technology that was used, and the hand-eye coordination that you have to display playing certain games was actually higher than what you needed to be a jet fighter pilot. Me being curious, I went to go and look, and I said, nah, that's rubbish, that can't be true. It's actually true. And there's a boy in my school who actually is going for Silicon Valley. He lives in South London. But in his head, he's like, I can do this. And he plays computer games, he dismantles games, he modifies games.
Yeah. So therefore, definitely positives to it.
There's positives. We can't demonize it. I don't think that would be fair.
To demonize
I think
whole
that's
concept of gaming.
Because me, myself, I play FIFA. The only reason I play FIFA is because I can play one game and put it down. I don't buy the other games because I know if I bought Call of Duty, I'll be finished. I wouldn't go to work. I'll call in sick. It's just the effect that it has. It's addiction, the same as any other addiction.
Yeah. So, I mean, the whole concept of gaming and addiction and what we should do about it is a whole other topic for a whole other segment on this show. But I do know that the World Health Organization recently classified gaming addiction as a form of addiction that's as serious as the other forms of addiction and would now require treatment by medication, psychotherapy, referral. And I think that there's a clinic that's now been opened in London to treat gaming addicted children, yes. So, but that's a whole nother topic. So I totally understand where you're coming from, and I hope that this boy, who's now isolated himself and locked himself up in the bedroom just to play the game, would get over it and not need to be referred to this gaming addiction center. So in terms of other aspects of children as well, what's the appropriate action that needs to be taken in terms of curbing gang violence, particularly in London? We're hearing more and more of young, particularly black boys, being killed. And they're not being killed by necessarily through racial attacks. Some of them are really attacking each other. And it's a whole gang culture. Who do you think the responsibility lies with to deal with gang culture and violence and the killing of young boys in London?
I can't sit here and pretend that this isn't a problem. But what I will say is that the media has a massive part to play in the way they report these things. It's extremely irresponsible. When I was at school, we still had gangs. Things were still happening, but we didn't have what we have now in terms of the proliferation of media outlets that report these things. People dying, unfortunately, is good for selling newspapers and good for getting hits on websites. And the way you report it makes a difference. Now, recently there was somebody died in East Street on Walworth Road, South London, near Elephant and Castle.
Yeah.
Guess what the media did? They reported it as happening in Peckham, which is...
Oh, gosh. Which is another few miles away.
It's a 15-minute drive away from there. But because you put Peckham in there...
Yeah, that would attract the necessary attention that they're looking for.
But on the flip side, we can't say that there isn't something happening with these kids. There is, but it's not just black boys. If you go to North London, you have the Turkish community that have their issues. You go to East London, the Bengali community have their issues. Woolwich, this Somalian community, they have their issues. Bermondsey, white working-class British boys have their problems too. The way these are being reported is massively skewed. Now, if you talk about solutions, the solution's the same across the board. The government has to step in. Yeah, they need to look at the root. Stop looking at what's happening now and let's go back. One of the problems that we have is the amount of hours people are having to work just to pay bills.
Yeah.
We're just surviving. I'm looking at my future and I'm trying to find ways to make sure that I'm able to be with my son after school. If things continue the way they are now, he has to then go somewhere else after school club, maybe hang around with his friends somewhere.
Yeah.
Because I have to work.
Yeah.
because the parents aren't there, and it's not neglect as some clowns are saying in the media, we have to work.
We have to work.
Both
it's not
parents.
Neglect, yeah.
Because we have to work, these kids, they have a few hours where they can kind of do what they want.
Yeah.
If they want to.
Yeah.
We work, we give them everything. So some people say, oh, but you've got this, that, and the other. Why are you behaving like this? It's not about material things. Mm-hmm. It's that emotional, mental support that you get from your parents that's needed more than anything. The government needs to find ways to make sure that the family unit is sustained or sustainable.
Absolutely.
It's incredible. My mum, when I was growing up, 2 boys, me and my brother. She was getting sick, but she was still working. Me and my brother came home by ourselves in primary school. We'd get home, we'd eat. She made sure we had food, but we could have done what we wanted. Anything could have happened.
Yes.
Back then, I wasn't smart enough to know that she had to work. I just thought she likes working.
Oh.
But now I know what she was going through, and now it's even worse, because in a 2-parent household, 2 parents have still got to work.
Yes.
They've got to do something. The church also has a massive part to play.
Tell me about the role of the church.
The church, okay, you will go down a major road in London, and you can count 30 churches
Absolutely.
that don't communicate with each other.
Yes.
If they pulled their resources together and said, we're going to destroy this knife crime, whatever tag the media want to put, they would make a massive difference in their community. But they don't even talk to each other. In churches, when things happen, when was the last time a church, actually I know one in North London, I can't remember what they're called, I'm sorry. When was the last time a church went out and did a march, a true march? Forget about getting a permit, go and march.
Yes.
We know who our God is.
Yes.
Sorry, I'm speaking Christianese now, I hope you don't
but that's
mind.
fine. You're on a Christian show, so that's okay.
You know who our God is. You keep telling our God, it's a God of the impossible. It's a God that will do anything. So where are you? So God's sons and daughters. When all these kids are dying, you want to share all the messages on Instagram and WhatsApp, but what are you doing?
I think that what people tend to do is they share the messages, they all exclaim and talk about it for a minute, and then people forget.
Nobody does anything.
And the family that's impacted is left to deal with the consequences of what's happened.
And if we are who we say we are, the Muslim children that are also deeply affected by this, the Sikh children, the atheist children, they need our help too.
Yeah.
Everyone needs each other in this if we are truly a community.
We do need each other.
We're not doing enough as a church, and somebody can attack me for saying this, but I'm talking collectively. All of our resources together in London, we've got tens of millions of pounds for sure.
Absolutely.
We can do something.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
The church, if they don't want to do that, teach your congregation who are parents on how to value family time, how to talk to your children.
Yes.
How to keep them close to you. Play computer games with your children. You don't like the game, you probably don't know what you're doing, sit there and play.
Just so that you can communicate with them and be in their world.
Yeah.
What would you say to single mother families who are struggling with raising kids? So a single mom struggling with raising her kids, there's no father figure, there's no role model for these boys. What would you say to such a woman and how to basically go through or navigate that particular challenge?
It's really tough because it's hard enough now in this society where I don't know my next door neighbour's name.
Yeah, in the UK.
Yeah, in the UK.
That's
for somebody to go out there and expose themselves and make themselves vulnerable. My mum was she still is strong. Strong woman, single mother, raised 2 boys, 2 hard-headed boys. One of the things that I see that she did was embrace relationships with community. She knew all the neighbours. Christmas, she's making them cakes, jollof rice. So you'd have white British people knocking on the door saying, where's my jollof rice? Like, it's Christmas. These are the same people who, when the chips were down, would be looking out for me and my brother.
Yes.
Now, I'm not saying to you, go and spread your business, but talk to somebody. Talk
to people. Have a sense of community.
Yes. You don't have to do it by yourself. You really don't. And if you're a single parent and you've got children in school, speak to the school. Schools are really beginning to understand what people are going through now. sometimes you'll have students that, or families that can't afford the correct uniform, and then they get in trouble because the parent has not spoken. Then that child has gotten in trouble 10 times in a row before the parent comes in and says, you know what?
We just can't afford the uniform.
Can't afford it. All the school will say is, we hear you. We hear you. We're going to support you somehow. Communicate. And this is me saying this. I'm not the best communicator when I'm annoyed. I try and do everything myself. But I see the impacts that communication can have. So single mothers, talk to people. Your life is not over. That your day is coming.
Yeah.
It's going to be tough.
Yeah,
it will be tough,
better.
But it will definitely get better. But just communicate, talk to somebody.
I agree. In terms of discipline, do you think that parents are lightening up? Because obviously we know about some laws that restrict how parents can basically discipline their children. Do you think that parents are lightening up and leaving the responsibility to teachers and to the school? And in relation to the school itself, do you think that the level of discipline is effective enough, or do you think that that could do with some improvement or some escalation, in your opinion?
What's really interesting is in schools, we have to remember that teachers are not behaviour managers. They're there to teach.
Yeah.
It's important that the pastoral teams in schools have a strong grip on discipline and behavioural structures and routines and practices. Now, parents shouldn't... It's a partnership. I
agree with that.
I had a parents' evening the other day, on Thursday even, and I said to the parents, look, I am actually quite strict. The students like me, but they respect me, so we have a good relationship, but I can't do a single thing without you. If I call you and say I need you, you need to hear my call. If you call me and say you need me, I have to hear your call.
Yeah.
This is partnership. This goes back to the old cliche African proverbs of it takes a village to raise
a child.
Yes.
Yes.
We still need that, regardless of the society.
Thank you so much, Patrick. Thank you. And to our viewers, I hope you've taken away a lot from Patrick, because I definitely have. Remember, your children are the custodians of our legacy, and through them, we have a form of immortality. Until next time, stay blessed.